You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Talkin Shop. We've got super fun guests today. It's going to be a blast. Someone I've wanted to talk to forever and am in complete love with characters that he has had his fingers all over and made their very best. We get to talk to Jim Starlin today, and then after that, we get to talk to Andrea Militari about the awesome series, The Shepherd, which, you know, has so much heart to it. It's just something that if you haven't read yet, you really should think about adding to your pull lists. All right, everybody, share out there so everybody knows, all your friends know we're about to have the most fun. We'll see you in just a second. I love it. Where are the buttons? It's not me. I didn't do it. All right. We're just going to assume everything is working fine. I'm going to do my shares because I want to. All right. All right, everybody. And thank you for joining us for this awesome episode of Talkin Shop. We love getting together with creators of things coming out this week. So you guys have plenty of time between now and your local comic shop opening up. You can actually tell them what is going on and what you want to have added. You know, this helps your local comic shop so much to know ahead of time. Even if you just give them a today heads up for Wednesday, they'll be like, yes, I know that people love this. I'm glad I ordered enough of it. And if they didn't, they can say, oh no, I must order more. And then get it started coming to your shop so you can pick it up. Hey, Mr. Zigo Lucky. Just want to make sure I've got that right. I want to make sure I give the right calls out. Thanks everyone for joining us. This is a fully interactive interview situation. So please get your questions together and post them up. Just remember to be respectful of our guest time and make them make sense for questions that are respectful to them. All right, everybody, welcome Jim Starlin.
Hello.
We were just discussing our mutual love of coffee. Do you have a favorite coffee drink?
I have an espresso machine, so I go through a variety of different ones.
Are you like a true barista? Do you do the whole like I froth up my own milk and all that fun stuff?
Well, I microwave the milk before I put it in there, but it's those little pod things. You put it in the machine, and it gives you a little bit of foam. I just liked it and got addicted to it.
Yeah, it's I have this discussion with my kids. Like both like tea and coffee, if you really think about it, probably don't taste like a whole bunch of anything. But man, can you fall in love with that flavor or anything? Like you can add a bunch of stuff to it, of course. But do you take yours straight?
Usually, but they have a hazelnut and a chocolate one I occasionally go for. But, you know, it's most of the time it's just the fuel to get me going in the morning. I get up, have a cup of coffee, and then I'm at the drawing board for the first hour or so.
So even before breakfast. The jitters?
It's just my most productive time. So I found that nobody else is around. There's nobody to bother me. You know, I get up like around 6 a.m. So nobody comes to life for at least another couple hours.
So you're the most morning type person at your house.
Yes, definitely.
Has it always been so?
No, I used to be a night owl when I first started into comics. I'd only start drawing around midnight, but I live out in the country now. And so I'm sort of in the same cycle as the sun. You know, it comes up, I wake up. So even if I got the curtains closed.
So you say you live in the country. Do you do any farming?
No, I lived in the woods where I had a lot of encounters with bears. And now I live over on the Hudson River. I got a little place off the river. And so My country is watching the blue herons and the eagles fish.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
fun.
gosh, so awesome. I just did. I meet so many people that in life they've always wanted to kind of try to live off the land. I just wondered if that was one of your goals, that you wanted to like raise chickens and have a little garden or anything.
No, the drawing keeps me busy enough. Once I get done with that, I want to just be able to laze the rest of the day.
That's
Not that
perfect.
ambitious.
So do you have like a hard cutoff every day for creativity time?
Usually, well, I'm going to knock off after this interview and start making dinner.
So it's like a regular 9 to 5 kind of, or a
That's
six
pretty
to
much, but
three.
I name my own hours, and weekends don't exist for me. My weekends come in the middle of the week most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different lifestyle. It's a freelancer's lifestyle. So
Yeah.
we have
So
our own
that
sense of time.
so the internet makes it seem like you kind of started being serious about making comic books when you were actually doing amazing things in Vietnam by being a photographer for the
Oh,
Navy.
long before then. My dad was a draftsman at Chrysler,
Oh
and
my!
he figured one of his fringe benefits was stuffing his briefcase with as much tracing paper, number two pencils, and masking tape as he could at the end of the day. He figured he was going to use these for his woodworking hobby. But he found that I stole as much of it as he did, just so I could trace from the comics. And that sort of hobby became an obsession, which became a career. So, you know,
Did you
learn
get
how
to
to.
go to work and kind of like watch him at his draftsman's table?
Oh no, no, he left in the morning and he came back, and it was Chrysler. There was no, and this back then there was no bring the kids to work days. It was all work.
I guess that's true. My dad did who was an engineer, so he did a lot of draftsman stuff. I used to sneak. He used to bring me sometimes during the summer, and I just lay under his draftsman table and kind of just be in the room while it was happening. But it was also a smaller business than Chrysler.
Yeah, they were just all work. No fun.
Stevie B was saying hi. Happy last the experience show of winter and the first one of spring. No one says
Oh, in
it better
fact,
than
I was getting much spring today. I was out back and watching a couple eagles soaring down into the lagoon behind the house fishing.
oh, so beautiful. Are they the bald eagles or
Yes,
a different kind of bald? Oh
yeah. I think you only get the golden ones out west. I don't think we get them around
wow.
here at all. Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of in the piney woods of Houston, and there are also bald eagles here. It's just awesome in the middle of the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah, we're filthy with them around here. They don't. They're the ones that don't leave during the winter, so I see them all year long. Everything else disappears, including the ospreys and the hawks, but the eagles stick around.
They're a very hardy bird. Wow.
Yeah, apparently down by West Point, further down the river narrows and it's really fast all the time, so it doesn't freeze down there. So the winter they get literally hundreds of bald eagles down that way.
Oh, it's amazing. What a beautiful place to be. To just like, do you have a window in the room you work in? Is it distracting?
Yeah, but it faces out to the creek. I live on a peninsula, so on the studio side, it's across the street. There's a creek, and most of the time, all I can see is some ducks over there, so it doesn't get too distracting.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Well, you've been super instrumental in writing, doing art for. You do everything, so it's not you've got your hands in all of the pies for a great many storylines and characters that have really impacted this new generation of lovers of comic book and comic book content, because they've gotten exposed to it via the movies if they haven't ever had it in the books. And I will have to tell you that Infinity Gauntlet continues to be one of the biggest sellers at our store. We just order it and order it and order it and think that surely everybody's got a copy by this point. It's totally not true. Did
I
you
think
ever
everyone should have
imagine?
10 copies.
Yeah, and give it away to all their friends, right?
Something like that. I guess I still get a little penny or two off each copy.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
I really love having the discussion with people when they pick it up, because most of the people that I catch just kind of like casually looking at it are looking at it because they watch the movie. And it's fun to talk to them about. You should buy and read this book because the motivation for Thanos is so much more different in this telling than it is for the movie. And the movie certainly was wonderful. I love that they decided to go that way because it was less complex than trying to figure out how to get all of that into one big movie.
Well, they didn't want to go for the abstract entities at that point yet.
Right.
Kevin Feige wasn't comfortable with that, so that's why Mistress Death was worked out. I have hopes that she'll still show up eventually.
Okay, so maybe you can tell me. I bet you if anybody knows the answer to this question, it's going to be you. When they showed us in the second movie, I think, when we finally get to see what ends up being the Red Skull kind of floating there at the pinnacle of wherever they have to like decide who they're going to give up, right? They're like, someone's going to have to die here. When we see that character floating there, it looks for all intents and purposes to be Death. Was there an intention to Easter egg fool us?
You'd have to ask the scriptwriters and the directors on that one. I never thought to ask. I had the same impression that it looked like Death, but they'd already told me that she wasn't going to be in the book, a year and a half before, or in the movie rather. So didn't fool me for long. It just, I said, oh, it looks like. I was more surprised that it ended up being a Red Skull, to tell you the truth.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was very, very surprised. I didn't know it was a left field thing. It was cool, but
it was very funny because I went down to shoot my cameo for Endgame between them shooting. They just finished up on the war and they were starting on Endgame, and I got down there thinking, and I'm going to sit around in some background scene and that'll be the end of it, and no one will talk to me. But as soon as I got down there, they had me sign a non-disclosure form, and everybody who works on these things do. So the screenwriters immediately cornered me, and I couldn't wait to start telling me everything. I went, okay, this is surprising. And then Joe Russo's came around. His brother was sick that day, so I never met him until later. But they showed me they took me over to the offices later on and showed me all the paintings that they used for telling the story. They had them up on the hallway at that point. And they just ran through the entire thing. And then for the next year and a half, I had to keep my mouth shut.
So hard.
It was. And especially when I'd see something online and somebody say, oh, this is what's going to happen. And I'd go, no, it's not. But I can't tell you that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned self-control.
I'm sure it's really hard because you can't even like really react to what people ask you, because I'm sure that a lot of people ask you things directly and you have to like not even react to it because it gives it away.
Yeah, I don't know much about anything going on right now. That was an exception rather than the rule. But what I did have was one of the executives up there tell me that I was the only one that he ever knew that didn't tell anybody he was doing a cameo. Because I thought, nobody tells, but apparently everybody else, as soon as they get done with their cameo, starts telling everyone.
Oh, no.
No.
Hi, Nick. I just want to wave at Nick is in the chat saying hi. And Stevie B. Welcome to all you guys. Your characters have started to pop up more and more in the comic books and, of course, obviously for the screen. I'm thinking recently of KG Beast. Was key to a storyline. That was an amazing character, and he keeps shooting at people like good bad guys should. But like him in 10 Nights of the Beast, these awesome storylines like Death in the Family continue to be very important and relevant. But I'm thinking specifically about Warlock that we're about to see. What do you hope that people know about Warlock ahead of even seeing him, whatever version we see of him on the screen?
Well, I think we're going to see more of he's going to be more the Kirby Lee him version at the begin with, because he's the bad guy in this film in some ways. Looks like there's a number of bad guys, but he's in there coming in from that point of view. I believe this is his first appearance of what's scheduled to be many, just because of nothing that anyone's told me. But when they first put out a casting call for the character Warlock, it was Warlock/Magus. So I suspect that somewhere down the line we're going to see a purple version of him.
Yes.
Yeah,
I did not know that. That makes me very happy.
Yes, and that's nothing that I learned from Disney. It was something that showed up in one of these online things. So I'm not in trouble. I didn't spill any beans.
No, you can kind of spoil a lot of stuff for yourself by just going and looking at the IMDb casting stuff, because it'll often tell you who's going to play what part, and sometimes you're like going, "What's that character?"
Well, I messed myself up on that in Endgame, because I saw Peter Dinklage is listed, and I thought, Pip the Troll. They're finally going to do Pip the Troll, because I had been lobbying Kevin Feige to use Pip the Troll somewhere. And well, he was a little bit taller than Pip the Troll by the time he showed up in the movie.
Oh, really tall.
Yes.
He was so good at that part.
He was. He's good in anything I've seen him in so far.
All right. Well, we're here to talk specifically about the book that's coming out this week. I am really excited. It's a good Dark Horse book. I love Dark Horse very much. And it's called Order and Outrage. And like I said before, you had me really at gene manipulation. It's something that science and science shows and society talks about a lot. Has this been something you've been interested in a while?
Actually, it's kind of a throwaway bit in the story. It seems to be getting most of the attention.
Really?
It's not actually a throwaway bit. It's why the character before she realizes she's outraged, has to deal with. But I'm throwing all sorts of things in there that are other than Gene. It's more about laissez-faire capitalism taken to its most awful degree, and basically gene manipulation and AI are things that the rich will be using against the poor as they go down the line here. Unfortunately, it's just human nature. And so both of those things are mixed into the storyline. And I've got other things planned, drug companies and the second series I'm going after. But right now, we're just going to concentrate on the first one and give you an idea give you a hint as to who Outrage is. It was originally only supposed to be Outrage, but apparently there was already a book out there named that, so we had to add Order onto it. But he was a character already in the book, and he's her male counterpart. Yeah.
Okay. So see, I've learned something new. I really thought it was just an emotion that we're supposed to link to this idea of the haves and the have-nots, because clearly, kind of, it looks like if you have a person of means, you can do pre-birth manipulation of genes, and that gives you certain advantages.
Yeah, and Outrage is a victim of that, and then, well, she starts off like any good story. Your protagonist should be victimized to begin with, and then so it can have something to overcome or conquer, and that's what her series is about. And it is her series. I mean, Order is the bad guy in it, I suppose, but he's also he's what he is. And in many ways, it's a male versus female kind of storyline.
Okay.
And I don't want to really tell much more than that, because it's kind of twisted, and I think you'll enjoy it more reading it than me telling about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you carry forward any themes that we've seen before? The favorite things that you like about the characters that you write? Are you carrying forward any of those themes into this writing?
No, I don't think I ever had Thanos or Dreadstar doing any dancing. So I think she'll be the first one to do some dancing in the story. Um, I mean, it's on a cosmic level. It's outer space because I don't like drawing horses or cars. So I always go off to outer space, and I've got this terrific artist this time, so I don't have to draw anything. Rags Morales is just doing this incredible job. I knew he was good, but once he started working on this, I was going, wow, why didn't I see him doing stuff like this before?
I'm thinking it might have a little bit to do with the fact that you're working with Jim Starlin. You got to up your game to your, level 11.
Well, my ego would like to think that, but I think he just hit a point where he was ready to do this stuff, and it's hardcore science fiction, and so his space stuff, his satellites and spaceships are just wow. You know, he's competing with the CGI ones on the screens.
Oh yeah. So what? Just like a really short aside, what do you think the future of AI looks like for us? Do you think it really will affect what's going forward, or do you think that we're just going to work our way around it as a comic book industry?
Well, I think it's going to hit the lower end workers to begin with. There are some Home Depots that have been using a sort of an AI, which is basically an iPad on some kind of Segway or something, and it goes around and it'll take you to where you need to find the screws and that. I understand that there's a big stink among the artist community right now about AIs coming in to certain apps you can get, and John Oliver actually did a episode of it where he had one of these things paint up a picture of himself and Miss Piggy at 80 years old, and it really was a nice little drawing, a nice little painting. So but I think the imagination is still going to be a factor.
Yeah.
The computers have become an integrated part of putting the comics and stories together now anyhow. um, when I first started off, you would use Dr. Martin's dyes and color your books on a Xerox, basically. And then it was shipped off to some place in Jersey where little old ladies would interpret it onto the metal or plastic plates as they went along. So I believe that down the line, these AIs that are doing all these incredible renderings will be directed by artists who will have the imagination to do something more wondrous than the AIs by themselves could do. It's always an adaptability thing with being an artist or any other job, I guess. You have to learn how to do these things as you go along. I remember when the computers first started working into the business, I told a number of letterers that they better learn how to do this on a computer because and I think only about two or three of them listened to me,
Yeah.
and they're still working.
I've heard a lot of kind of like movement back toward practical art because I think creators have realized that the digital versions of what they're creating, that you don't have anything physical really to like kind of like hold on to or then necessarily just sell later on. And
Well, I
I'm a
still do
practical
the actual drawing on paper. It's only
yeah.
when I get to the coloring stage that I go do a computerized.
Oh,
I still
perfect.
have an inker out in California, Jamie Jameson, who works on Dreadstar with me, and we're both doing our jobs on paper until she scans it and then sends it out to me, and then I go digital.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I actually have a question that's popped up more than just like you're the most awesome person on the planet. It says, I enjoyed Gilgamesh 1 and 2. Did you have a third story to tell, but your talents drew you elsewhere at the time? That's by
Well, there was
Sue.
only Gilgamesh 2.
Mm-hmm.
There was never a 1.
Oh,
Oh, I mean, there was a Gilgamesh 1, but it was an epic poem done way before I was ever born. Gilgamesh 2 was a 4-issue one shot that I wish DC would reprint. Um, they seem to think that I have the rights to it, and I don't. It's a work for hire job that I did for them. And people come up to me and ask to see that thing reprinted sometime because it's really hard to find the books.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something different. It was my Bigfoot comic, and I had a lot of fun with it. I had to sort of rush at it at the end, but that's a long story all to itself.
I'll see what I can do on my end. I'm nobody really, but I tend to somehow make things move. So let's see if I can get it printed for you.
Get you lobbying for Gilgamesh too.
Right. Well, and I mean, also, if you have enough retailers also mention that they would like to have it to buy and sell, then that kind of moves the needle, I think.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Let's see if we can get the Discovery Channel to pay attention to it.
There you go. All right. So for Order and Outrage, does this short series? Do you envision it to be multiple short series, a long ongoing? What would you like?
I've got 3 parts. The first one is coming out now. It's coming out in 4-part series. I originally sort of saw it as 3 graphic novels, but when we started talking to Dark Horse, they wanted to still do the pamphlet-sized books and that, so I broke it up that way. Next week, I actually start writing the second series. So it's at this point, it's 3-4 issue miniseries, but it'll be open-ended at the end. There's a resolution, and it could go on from there. I have no idea. Maybe I'll want to do it still, or maybe I won't. I don't know. It's open, up in the air.
Oh, perfect. I like that. Can you have choices? Pastor Michael says, what's your favorite comic you've done? Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite, sort of followed by the Thanos quest for completely different reasons. Heart-rending and just plain ugly and dirty. Two extremes in those.
Oh, yeah. Were you surprised that they let you have kind of like that breadth of storyline for Captain Marvel? Were they like to the end of life?
Well, they actually approached me on that. When I did Captain Marvel itself, Roy Thomas just let me fly wherever I wanted to go with. I loved working with Roy.
Perfect.
And so when they came in afterwards, after I left the book, apparently they had a hard time. No one knew what to do with it. And, Jim Shooter approached me and said, let's be honest about it. No one knows what to do with your character, so we want to kill him and create a female Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
And so I worked out a deal where if I did this first graphic novel for him, the third graphic novel would be Dreadstar. And so I started sitting down and trying to come up with a plot for killing him off. And the first 4 or 5 were heroic deaths, which you've seen a million times. They get blown up at the end doing something self-sacrificing. And I just didn't like any of them. I kept throwing them out. And I was thinking, maybe I'm not going to be able to do this. And then my own father, a year before, had passed away from cancer. And I don't remember what geared me into it, but that's where we went. And I sent the plot in, and apparently every assistant editor up there hated it. They wanted a heroic ending, and Jim Shooter was the only one who liked it, and he said, go with it. And I thank Jim to this day for that. Don't listen to the minions.
It was the right choice, because otherwise it would have just been the same tale.
Yeah, and that wouldn't have done anything for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, where is the right place for people to follow you on social media? Where are you the most active?
I have an Instagram, Jim Starlin, and a Facebook page. Active is not exactly a word I'd use with me. When something like this, I put your show up on the Instagram and Facebook this morning, but I think it's been weeks since I've been there, and I probably should put something for. I'm going to be at a convention in Lexington, Kentucky this weekend. I probably should get back there and do something with that. Let them know. So yeah, but occasionally I get on there and I will put something on.
I think you're probably doing the right thing with your time, honestly, sir.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that.
The drawings take a while.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate it. I look really forward to reading this. We'll get our copies in tomorrow, and I'll be reading it for review. So I'm super
I
excited.
can't wait to see it myself.
Oh, yeah.
I probably won't see it until Lexington when I sign them.
Woo! It'll be a surprise for you, too.
Yeah. Well, I've been seeing paid JPEGs and stuff like that, but I haven't seen the book at all. I haven't seen the thing completed yet.
Oh, amazing. This is going to be awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Everyone, stick around. We have another interview coming up next. Thank you so much, Mr. Starlin, for your time. I appreciate it so much.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Why was Princess Zelda sad after watching a bunch of YouTube videos? She couldn't find a link in the description. We'll stop if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's super easy. Click subscribe and click the bell when you do. And thanks for supporting the EXP.
And welcome back to Talkin Shop, where we love talking about comic books. They're coming out so that you know where to find them at your local comic shop, of course. And you'll know the titles so you can put it on there. Like right now, I expect everyone to be on the phone with their LCS, adding Order and Outrage to their polls. And thank you everyone for joining us for that part. We got more stuff coming up. I just wanted to remind you, if you like this kind of programming, you can give thumbs up or hearts. That'll make me feel really good and the production team. But also so that your friends can find it. It would be great to share. And if not, if you want to make sure you never miss a show, just subscribe. We can subscribe anywhere you're watching, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, any of those places. Or we would really love it if you would subscribe on YouTube. Also, even if you don't watch us from that platform, it helps us out a lot. We're super thankful. Now, welcome to the shop, the store, that's great, to the show. Andrea Molinari, my good friend.
Hello.
I might be a little flustered.
After talking with Jim Starlin, I should be able to relax you. And that's a much more accomplished writer, and yeah, pretty impressive.
I have this to say about it though. Your writing makes me feel just as excited about the story as his stuff, because you guys have in my brain a similar aesthetic to your writing, that like it's about the character, it's about feeling something for the character and character development, and it's not about whatever the next battle is. That's why I think that there's a good comparison there.
Wow, I'll take it. I actually was, just for fun, I was looking at his kind of like bibliography, and I noticed that like one of my top graphic novels of all time is The Cult. That's one of my top, I would say easily the top 3 Batman stories I've ever read. And, I think that, that focus on the character is so important, because the fights, it's just, they can be very cookie cutter at a certain point. They're kind of like fireworks displays. They're great while they're going on. And then afterwards it's like, okay, it's over. What do we have to show for it? So.
And what kind of like wonderful commentary for him to say that when he's finished with his time on characters, that he's basically been told we have no idea where to go from here.
Wow. Yeah. I heard that too. I was like, yeah.
You got Marcus Guillory on hanging out with you, and Marco Fontanelli. Hey,
Marco Fontanelli, that guy he's always working on something. I'm sure he's cranked out at least 3 books today. So
At least.
And Marcus is a long-term friend of mine. I'm really honored to get a chance to work with him at Scout. He's our head of design. So we work very closely in terms of getting the books ready to go. So.
Well, you guys have been putting out some really amazing books. How do you balance your time there at Scout with being creative and, kind of steering the ship?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I think that anybody who is a creator and then slips into the administration side of it, whether it be editorial or publishing, that, whatever responsibilities, I think your creative side does suffer, to some degree. So like, today was a low key day for me. I didn't have a lot of like Scout related work, and I didn't get any writing done. I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm not going to apologize. I don't feel like doing it, and I'm not going to today. But I did give some thought to, a story that I'm working on. But I think that if you do the administrative side of it, your creative side does suffer. I think it'd be a mistake to say anything other than that. But that said, like in my particular role as editorial director, I work with a lot of creative teams. So a lot of my creative juices are flowing into, helping to improve these other books. So I really enjoy that. I feel very fulfilled from a creative standpoint working with these teams. So I don't feel like I'm losing anything. And I just, so we'll talk more about this as we go with the Shepherd, but I'm way ahead. I mean, I'm not desperate. I've got books that are done, basically ready to publish through 2025. So I'm not worried.
Sure.
So it'll all get to where it needs to be. So,
are you a morning creative person, or does it just like strike you in the middle of the day?
It comes at different times. It's a lot of it where the inspiration comes. Like I've had times where, I had gotten to a point in the story where I really didn't know where to go. And I got up the next morning and went for my run. And while I was on the run, I had the idea. And it was literally just a 1-sentence thing that changed the trajectory of the entire story. It happened with the Valentine in particular. Mm-hmm. And it was just that 1 sentence was the skeletal, like the backbone for where everything was going to go. So
I'm just thinking about my own self. I would have had to have chanted that 1 sentence to myself all the way until I found paper and pen. Did you have to do that?
No, it hit so hard that I was like, it was more a matter of like, okay, now that I have this, I kind of sensed what it was, that it was the answer that I had been looking for. And now it was a matter of saying, okay, well, how do we flesh that out? So I was kind of already extrapolating from that. But I use that as an example to say that, I think creative inspiration comes at different times. And I think just trying to be, whether it's, on a run or whether it's doing something else, to try to be responsive to that and write down those ideas and then, go to work on them. But it's the other thing too, is I want to be very careful about saying that, writing is work. It's not like there's this angel that whispers ideas into your ear. Would that were the case, and make things a lot easier, a lot more efficient. But, you know how it is. I mean, you just kind of get these ideas down on paper. I think that's the key thing. I tell all my writers that we can't edit what doesn't exist, and it's in the editorial process of that, whether it's the writer's own edits to their ideas and stories as they're kind of getting them ready for an actual editor to work with them, or it's the editor working with what's already been laid down. That's a process of improving the story and kind of understanding that is part of the writing process. It's not something to be feared. It's something that's, a way of detecting what potentially are holes or gaps in the story, because how it is. We have a story in our head, not all of which gets out onto the paper. And that's what the editor does. How he finds the places where it didn't quite make it onto the paper. where there's kind of like this gap in the story, like that needs to be bridged somehow. And a lot of times,
feel like they had internal dialogue that didn't quite make it.
Oh yeah. You know, because the story, as you know, it lives in our head before it ever lives on paper. So not all of it, you know, gets onto the paper. So that's where you get into that editorial process.
Oh, I love Marcus's comment. I love how you guys are so comfortable on camera. Marcus, what you don't know is that just like the Hulk, instead of being always angry, I'm always terrified. But because I'm interviewing people about things that I love and or people that I love, then it makes it very easy. It's a safe place.
Yeah, I mean it's just fun, you know. I think part of it is just don't take yourself too seriously. I don't take myself that seriously. I mean, this is just, you know, it's a lot of fun. It's a learning experience. You know, I love the storytelling process. We've been working on this thing for quite a while now. In 2025, it'll be 10 years on the Shepherd. That's just the publication side of it. We actually started long before that. It was June of 11 where the actual writing began.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a while.
When I met you, you already had, I think, 3 trade paperbacks self-published.
Right. Those we were with. That was with. I am right over here. Actually, there was with Caliber. This one was the original story, and then this is actually one story. The Path of Souls. Path of Souls is the yellow one, and the other one's the Path of Dogs. But in reality, it's actually one story. Caliber chose to publish them as 2 separate trades, but I think that was a mistake, and I'm glad that Scout didn't do that. Because it really is a story that is intended to be kind of digested together. You know, like you talked about this idea with the characters, you know, Roberto and I focusing on the characters. And I think I like to view it as like, as you read the story, like we want to take you on this kind of like emotional roller coaster, you know? And so ideally, I think the best way to digest a Shepherd story is really not individual issues, but really sitting with the trade. Because that's the way when we envision the story being digested, that's the way we imagine that the reader is experiencing the story. So it's like we're laying down these things that then come back to be meaningful as the story unfolds itself.
Oh yeah. Okay, for people that this is a new exposure to them, this title, and what is the reading order for the Scout titles that have been released?
Okay, so that first one is this was republished. Like I said, this is the Caliber Comics version that originally came out May of 15. We have subsequently published that, republished it with a new short story at the beginning, a 12-page short story, and that was published with the David Mack cover, and that we're real proud of. That's volume 1. It's apokatastasis, or restoration. That's a Greek word for restoration. And then, as I said, the second volume is called The Path of Souls. And that is a story about a hospital in the afterlife for the souls of soldiers from different time periods and cultures that are undergoing healing for post-traumatic stress. Mm-hmm. But it's all in the afterlife where this is taking place. The third volume actually came out last year, and it has 2 stories. Our friend Marco Fontanilli actually helped me with this second story, but the first one is a 3-issue arc called The Valentine. And this deals with the children of the Shepherd that are left behind, because the Shepherd is really kind of a family affair, to say the least. Mm-hmm. The first volume really focused, as you know, on the father-son, the father and the oldest son. And then the second volume also works with them in the afterlife. But the third volume kind of like takes a step back and focuses on the children that he leaves behind. We see that in that first volume that they actually have paranormal abilities. They can see the dead, and that kind of is the subject matter, or the springboard, I guess, is the best way to say it, for volume 3. And we have that 3-issue story of The Valentine, and then a one-shot that follows it called The Pit. And Marco Fontanelli actually did the primary A cover. In fact, I actually have right there is a press works of the cover for The Pit. So real proud of that. James Hake actually gave me that for Christmas this past Christmas. Very good Christmas present. My favorite Christmas present, to be honest. Don't tell my wife that.
Hard to beat.
But it's definitely my favorite. Yeah. So, but that is volume 3. And as I said, that was last year. And then this year, we're publishing the 4th volume. And that is a one story, five issues, story called The Tether. And that will come out. I talked to Richard this morning. He's saying that should be out by early to mid-April. That issue 1 will be out at that point. So I'm very excited about that. That is a story that largely focuses on the oldest son in the afterlife. And there's a lot of character development and world building that takes place in there. So a lot of questions I think people might have had about the world of the shepherd, how things work in the afterlife. A lot of that gets explored in the volume, The Tether.
It's so amazing. I love that you've fully thought out this universe. That's and you recognize like the mom worry in me when you have a father follow his son into the afterlife, that he's leaving people behind.
Yeah.
That you've concerned yourself with them is so good, because it makes my mom's heart happy that they're going to.
Yeah, I mean that's actually that whole element, like a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, but the shepherd his function is largely in the afterlife. He's a guide of souls in the afterlife. So newsflash, he's dead. So he doesn't quite make it through the first issue of the Shepherd Volume 1. And that whole issue of him, dying the way he does is something that is very challenging for people. One of the things I thought was really interesting is I had the when the first volume came out, I actually had a podcaster to interview me, and he wanted to talk about that aspect because the idea, especially the father taking his own life to go after his son.
Right.
And he told me that his son had actually died of a drug overdose, and that afterwards he really came very close to taking his own life. So he felt that element of the despair that the father goes through was very much true to life experience.
Sure.
It is, obviously it's both a literary device, but also I think an expression of the feeling that I have for my oldest son. It's hard when you're a parent to even consider the idea of losing a child. I just actually, without naming any names, I just had a friend, a work colleague, that lost his son in a motorcycle accident, and he's, in his early 20s. And you just say to yourself, how do you come back from that? As a parent, it's a tremendous loss. And so in a lot of ways that first volume of The Shepherd really explores that concept of what that loss does to a person. It's not something, obviously, that the decision that he ends up making is not one that we advocate,
No.
but it is the decision that the character makes. And then of course there's, consequences because of that. You can't, you don't have the character wake up at the end of the story and it was all a bad dream kind of thing. It changes the trajectory of everything, of everyone,
But it is one of those like Marcus is saying, the MC dies partway through issue 1, never saw it coming. Yeah, that's the character development part where you're just like that. The character development isn't that part of it. The thing that happens in the story is entirely super important for everything that happens afterwards. It has to happen that way.
Right.
And in this case, we know that it's a comic book, but it also, I'm sure, helped with this gentleman kind of like think through what happened to him and work through the feelings about it. And it's not like there's any right answer to misery or to things that happen this way, but yeah, staying around for the rest of your family is much better.
Oh yeah, I think so. I would certainly say I would agree with that. Although I think from a literary point of view, is I think that's what literature does. Is it gives us the opportunity to explore the human experience, things like grief and loss, and how to come back from that. It's funny because I was talking with somebody the other day about this, and it's like, I think in a lot of ways, if I were to pick a word to summarize The Shepherd, and I'd be curious to see what you think of this, is I would choose the word hope, because I feel like that is the kind of like underlying message that is woven through all the stories of the shepherd. Because it's this idea that you're not abandoned, that there is a way back, and in some ways it's not even just a way back, but a way forward, through grief, through the difficulties. Because in a lot of ways, the shepherd stories are really ghost stories. They're really unresolved elements. And as we live our lives, we have lots of loose ends, don't we? Yeah. A lot of unresolved things. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of exploring that. What does it take to resolve some of these unresolved things? And ideally to be able to resolve them in the here and now, as opposed to the hereafter. So I think that's certainly a huge theme in the stories.
Yeah. And it's also kind of like with this deep process of thought that we have about why things happen the way they happen.
Sure.
And if they didn't happen that way in our lives, would we be the same people we are coming out of it? So, I mean, I think it's a safe place to explore it in writing, for sure. Yeah. Pop rap art shows up late. That's fine. We love having you here, even late. Hi. Do you have, here you go, not very super or hero of the main characters of this book, but very human. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I like a broken hero more than just a straight up. I mean, I love people like Superman and Captain America that seem to have no flaws. I want them to continue to have no flaws. That's their character.
Right.
But
right.
characters that I totally get are the ones that do have these kinds of, like, part of their story is that they've had some real stuff they've come up against and had to overcome.
I think that those things that we've been through do enable us to help others, and hopefully that they make us more compassionate for when we meet other people who are going through difficulties, that we can empathize with them and, in some way be present for them in those difficult times, because a lot of times we don't have an answer. There's no magic wand, like the gentleman I was telling you about with his, the loss of his son. There's no magic wand that's ever going to fix that. I think that in those kind of situations, all you can do is just try to be present with the person that's experienced that kind of loss, and just that they know that you're with them in that, we're kind of walking with them in that experience. So
Pop Rap Art is asking what the title of the book is we're talking about. Aha, very smart, because there are people just popping on.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a co-writer. My son and I write The Shepherd, which is a supernatural thriller. The Shepherd is a guide of souls in the afterlife. We're published with Scout Comics. We were originally published by Caliber Comics, but as of 2020, we brought the title over to Scout Comics and really haven't looked back. It's been a good experience for us, and continue to write stories. We have volume 4 is coming out this year. And the name of the volume is called The Tether. It's different ground than you've seen before with the Shepherd, because I'll give you a little spoiler here, is that it's a romance. So Woo-hoo. Yeah, so it's a very different kind of story than what we've seen, and it does focus on the shepherd's teenage son and his his dreams, his hopes, his aspirations, what he wants, him grappling, like he's in the afterlife. And he's grappling with the reality that there are some things that would be normal experiences that are not going to happen, and him kind of grieving that, and then in the midst of that, he ends up meeting somebody in the afterlife that kind of changes things for him. So I hope that people will like it. I have enjoyed the process of writing something like that. And my son has done a really good job in this particular story, The Tether. My son Roberto has really been the lead writer, and I've kind of come in and cleaned up things and edited and added some scenes where I felt we needed it. But he's kind of been the point writer.
How old is your son?
He's going to be 30 this year.
Okay. Well, I mean, it gives you
I
an
earned
idea
this, by the way, this
into
gray
where
hair.
in life he is, right?
Yeah, there's a reason why the gray hair is there. So.
Tell everybody the story of your shepherd's crook back there. That I see you posing with it, and I think it's the most wonderful prop I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, it's I'll just give you a better look at it there. That's the shepherd's staff, and it does light up.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to do a lot of cosplay of the character of the shepherd when I would go out to the conventions. Frankly, since I've been representing Scout at the conventions, I've been carrying so many books and other Scout products that I only have a Prius, so this is almost an 8-foot long staff.
How do you fit it in there?
Yeah, you can get it in there, but with all the stuff that I'm now transporting, it's not really safe. Let's put it that way. But it always gets a lot of attention when I go to the shows with it. I do dress up as the shepherd. When you advertise, obviously for the show, you had a picture of me cosplaying the shepherd, but that is the staff that I use in the cosplay. So yeah, a nightlight. It's a pretty good one. It was made for me by a friend up in Orlando. So, but it is heavier than you would think. By the way, it's made of it has like a skeletal structure of a PVC pipe, and then this is like molding clay that hardens like a rock. So it's a good 10 or 11 pounds. I mean, it's sturdy. You can easily lean on it while you're behind your table, and there's no fear of you doing any damage to it. And woe be somebody who gets smacked by that, because
what do I say? It looks like a great weapon.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if anybody bad shows up at any of these cons, if I get anywhere near that, they're going to be in real trouble.
Oh
so,
yeah,
that's a one and done shot. Trust me. So right. Yeah,
we're in our last minute here. Do you want to share your social media? Where
sure.
You think everyone should?
I would say my primary social media is Instagram, and it's The Shepherd Comic. And I would say be careful how you spell shepherd, because when it's kind of funny, we have this running joke at Scout that the shepherd always gets misspelled. I don't even know why, but it's the shepherd, SHEPHERD. I almost misspelled it myself. The Shepherd Comic on Instagram, also the same logo or the same name for Facebook, and then the Shepherd Com on Twitter. Those are the three main social media platforms that I use. And that's pretty much all I can handle. I was listening to Starling talking about I'm not quite that bad on social media, but it's a job. Let's put it that way. It doesn't come naturally. We'll say it that way.
Totally a job. Yeah. But I like it. It's one of those things I keep on saying, I want to quit you, internet, but then I then spend half an hour going down whatever Facebook feed that I go every day. So.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you so much, Andrea, for coming and filling us in on what's coming up next for the Shepherd. Stick around, everybody. We've got awesome programming coming up right after this, and you love it, so don't go anywhere. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week for Talkin Shop.
Join the party.